Now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is JD PicKell. JD, much has changed since we last talked. We were just talking off air. It was like last time that we chatted. It was right around this time last year. But you are a fellow girl dad now. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
That is
Yeah, crazy.
huge life changes. Have you taught your daughter the golden rule yet? And by golden rule, I'm not referring to treat others the way they want to be treated. I'm referring to, as PFT would say, ball security is job security.
Yeah, we talk about it, man. It's one of those things that you drill it as much as you can, you drill it, but at the end of the day, like it's really on your personnel to take what you're saying and kind of make it their own way of life. So I'm excited for her, but it's one of those things that we're still in the drilling phase, and I can only hope and pray that she buys in at some point in time, as we all have to, make our own choices.
Yeah, ball hits the ground that she's carrying or something like that. It's just a little reminder, hey, ball security, job security.
Yeah.
When she's repeating it, that's when I know it'll truly have sunk in. But we all got time. We got time to impart our values onto the young ones.
So I'm the good cop, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, make sure high and tight, 5 points of contact, eagle claw on top. My wife, though, she's the bad cop. Like, if we're having fumbles, like we're doing wind sprints in the front yard. She's crawling right now, so wind crawls in the front yard. I mean, she does not want to fumble around my wife. I'll tell you that much. But I think between the two of us, we'll be able to like cut down on those, effort mistakes, and I'm excited for what she's going to be, man. It's going to be good.
Speaking of fumbles, seamless transition. What was the thing last year that you were most wrong about? Because if you can top my Florida State will win the ACC and have a first round playoff bye, I'll be surprised and amazed.
Dude, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There was, I feel like a collective thing across just all college football spaces, like media, fans, whoever. Like we all saw what Florida State was last year, and then, or I guess 2 years ago, and then we're like expanding the thing to 12 teams. Like, yeah, Florida State, they're good enough. Mike Norvell's a good enough coach. He was just up for the Bama job and said no to that. Like, let's go. DJU looked okay at Oregon State. We can make it work. When Nick Saban, I think he had Florida State in his playoff, if not winning the ACC.
He did.
So like
Yeah.
realizing that, I'm like, okay, arguably like the best mind in college football had them in the playoff. We could have been, more wrong. I'm trying to think if there was another just complete whiff, because I for sure was on the Florida State train and whiffed on that one. I think I had, what else was I just wrong about? I'm trying to
I had
think if there
Hugh
was another
Freeze
just
winning
whiff.
8 games. That was another big
I was
whiff
there
that I
too.
had. Yeah.
Okay, I was a believer in Peyton Thorne. I was like, hey, listen, first year, no spring practice. Cam Coleman's an action figure. Like Auburn's going to kind of make some noise here. I think I was in the 8-win category, and I also was like even more firmly on the Peyton Thorne's going to do something train. Similar with Florida State, I was on like, hey, DJU now. I know it was jokes at Clemson, whatever. He left, they got worse, and then he goes to Florida State, and it was just, I mean, abysmal is probably too kind a word, but it was all that for both those cats, sadly.
Okay, I know you've been bordering on a take, and it's a take that I'm already on record with, and I feel like I need to give you the, hey man, the water's fine, kind of talk to be
I
able to
know
get
where you're
fully on
going
board.
because I saw this. I love it. Yeah. Please lay it on me.
How do I need to talk you into picking LSU to win a national championship?
Dude, I'm close. I'm painfully close to doing it. I think we're gonna do our predictions for this season post media days, because this is. I mean, you know how it is. Like you kind of just want to look some of those guys in the eye and maybe like convince yourself you've got some intel on this whole thing. I'm a firm Garrett Nussmeier handshake away from being like, that's the team. That's the team right there, dude. And if there was going to be a year for it to happen, would it not be this year where Ohio State doesn't, have a sure thing at quarterback, and Texas is a new quarterback, and Georgia's got a new quarterback, and who knows who Bama's quarterback's going to be? Like, wouldn't it be this year when LSU got a top two portal class and Nuss coming back? So, yeah, I'm here for any and all like nudges off the cliff. I'm 1 foot off. Like I'm legitimate. The only thing that's scaring me is the idea of picking against some of these like just other uber talented rosters. Like I'm looking at Texas, I'm looking at Ohio State, which is I think everyone's favorites right now in Vegas to win the national title. And I'm like, man, is that talent really not gonna pop up and make some noise in a 12 team playoff where we hit reset on the season? If it was 14 playoff, or I dare I say BCS, I think I'd probably already have my verbal commitment to LSU.
It's an 18-1 pick to win a national championship. So it does take some coaxing, and there's always going to be the Brian Kelly factor. And the second that Brian Kelly loses a game, which, by the way, everybody who wins a national championship in this new era of the sport, they're going to have a moment in which we think that team is done, stick a fork in them, they've got real issues. That moment with Brian Kelly is going to be so pronounced, and the idea that it could happen week one, like it always does for LSU and Brian Kelly, it's there, and it's going to push some people back onto the cliff just as they're ready to jump off it and go all in with LSU. But the one thing that I'm going to come back to for everybody that says, Brian Kelly, he's not going to be able to win these big time games. 3-4 against AP top 10 competition at LSU, which isn't as bad as some would think because you factor in the Notre Dame stuff. Ryan Day's 3 previous seasons before he won that national championship last year at Ohio State, 5-5 in those games, which is actually really good against AP top 10 competition. That's what this all comes down to. Brian Kelly wins big time games, the biggest if that there is in college football in 2025. We're feeling good.
And that's the thing too, like we are so conditioned, I think, as a college football world to what the BCS was, and then we get on board with the idea of, oh, well, you can lose a game and make the 14 playoff, okay, as long as it's respectable. Now we're in a world where it's like, no, we're talking about Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss having a legitimate argument to be in the college football playoff as a 3-loss team. So just what you said, if they lose a game, whether it be to Clemson or whether they drop a game to Alabama, like whoever it is, like the punchline culture on Twitter will hit, and it's like, see, told you Brian Kelly can't do it. But in reality, it's going to be, okay, well, as long as he doesn't drop another one, they're okay. So that's the other part of this, that it really, I think, just takes Nuss playing his best ball at the right time for them to be a team that can go win it all. Like kind of like we saw with Will Howard. Like Ohio State was a totally different team in the college football playoff. Yes, because Jeremiah Smith is a freaking character out of a Marvel universe, but also Will Howard, you saw him kind of gain a little more confidence, look more of that version he was against Oregon early in the year. And I'm very, very bullish on the Tigers. What's your thought around the? Because this is the hard part for me to gauge. I'm looking at LSU and the games they lost last year. A&M in the second half. Alabama didn't even get off the bus. There was a couple moments where I'm just like, I don't even feel like they really had their eye on the ball in the games they actually lost. The Florida game, obviously. I feel like that's going to become more stabilized here in year 4 now for BK. Is that kind of your thought as well around like the confidence on the internal stuff with LSU? Like, hey, I don't think we'll have those toe stubs quite the same.
The late game struggles, the USC blunder, which it was a blunder to lose that game that seemed very well in hand. It is going to continue to linger. And while Miller Moss was different than a Jalen Milroe, different than a Marcel Reed, an in-game replacement to Marcel Reed, which obviously LSU just had no answer for that whatsoever. It always makes you wonder, what do things look like when they're going south for Brian Kelly? And is that just ultimately going to define his, I hate to say it because this word's so cliche, but his legacy? You see those moments in the Florida game where he's ripping a receiver on the sideline for jumping too early. And you're just like, man, can you be the guy that holds it together instead of seemingly always be the guy that has everything fall apart in these type moments? Because if this team is going to win a national championship in this day and age, that can't be a conversation whatsoever. That's got to be a thing of the past. But we haven't seen Brian Kelly when things are just going right. And when LSU's getting those bounces going in their way, and obviously the A&M and most notably the Bama game, like things just couldn't have gone worse for them at those key moments. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's definitely a roll of the dice with Brian Kelly, and I'm fully on board. It's the preseason thing. You just want to be a little bit bold.
And the whole thing, I mean, this whole season's kind of a roll of the dice. Like I think you maybe mentioned this on this platform as well. I think I saw there's legitimately I counted 9 teams that I think can actually win the national championship. And I don't know if I'm picking all 9 of those teams to make the playoff. Like, I think Alabama could win a national championship if Ty Simpson's a true plus at quarterback. But if he's not, then Alabama's probably like, a 9-win team again? Like, is that crazy to think? And And so going back to the roll of the dice thought, it's kind of a roll of the dice year in college football, I think, more than it's ever been because of new quarterbacks, because of the 12-team playoff, because of the fact that it's straight seeding. Roll the dice kind of year, man. Like, I'm here for it.
One of the things you talked about on the hard count, I agree with you. I think Clemson safest path to the playoff, maybe safest playoff pick in the
Yeah.
preseason, and that feels very 2010s ish to say. But you look at the schedule and it's like, man, how are they going to go 9-3 and miss the playoff? Like,
Yeah.
how are they going to end up if that were to happen? If that happens and LSU gets them into season opener, and then they just have like a couple of these stub their toe type games in ACC play, or maybe one against South Carolina once again, which by the way they do have to go to Columbia. What are the conversations about Clemson if that's what's in store? If 9-3 and missing the playoff with this team is what awaits them.
I mean, we were already murmuring about it when Clemson was like winning the ACC a couple years ago. It's like, man, do they kind of have to embrace what new college football is? Like, is Dabo kind of stuck in his ways too much? If they miss the playoff with that roster, which I think is probably the most talented in college football, and they're visibly like a player or two away in certain moments from getting to their potential, I think at that point it's like, okay, we were already talking about it beforehand, but like we really dab, but we got to figure something out here, brother. Because it would be such an indictment on all the talent they already have. Like it would be shocking in general if they don't get it done. And I think if they don't get it done, that means again like a player or two away, whether it be depth or whether it be, hey, you lost, God forbid, somebody from an injury, and you didn't have a high quality backup. Again, looking at the portal, I think that's kind of the conversation that would not just like gain volume. I think it would be borderline off the rails. I don't feel this way, but I think you would have people in the space saying, is Dabo the right guy at Clemson for modern college football? I think there would be people that are that out of pocket to ask that question, which would have, I think, momentum behind it. I still think he's one of the best coaches in the sport, but it would start that conversation, which is unfortunate. I don't think we'll get there, but I think that's the conversation.
Yeah, the internal defenders that Dabo has, which are plenty, they would have to look at that team and go, man, how do we still miss out on getting to that type of level? That'd be a really, really tough pill to swallow. Give me the offseason buzz that you're just not buying. Like the thing that so many people seem to be talking about. I'm sure there's people listening to this right now going, LSU, that's the thing that I'm not buying. And they're listening to us going, talking about this and going, nah, that's just not going to be a take I'm on board with. Because for me, it's anybody that wants to put Penn State as the number one team in the country. I puke in my mouth a little bit when I see that, because 4-20 against AP top 10 teams, might have heard about that. James Franklin, that exists. And it's tough for me to get there, not just because of Drew Aller, but just because of the Franklin aspect. And I do think your head coach's history should factor into something like that. So I'm stalling here just to give you some time to think about it.
No,
What's that preseason take that you're just like, no, can't get there just yet?
It's so funny because I was literally, as you asked that question out loud, I was like, probably Penn State, dude. Like I probably, and I'll talk about that for a second, then I want to circle back on another thought. I believe a lot in Drew Aller. I think he is, next to Garrett Nussmeier, the most proven commodity in college football. In the next breath, I say, well, you didn't have a lot of receivers last year. I understand that. But I think the best quarterbacks, the true best quarterbacks in the sport at the end of next year will be the guys that elevated everyone around them. And so with no Tyler Warren and what they've done via the portal to try and get us some guys, I am really watching Drew Aller and saying, okay, dude, like this is, if you are who we think you're going to be, like this is your spot now where there's no more excuses for, well, this guy, that guy. It's like, it doesn't, at a certain point, we need to, it's a result-oriented business, and I need to see results. So that's, I guess, one thought around it, which is kind of me sitting on the fence there saying, I like Drew Aller, want to see him be the guy, the reason why you win. But I think one take that I'm not buying, not to be like, Mr. Hopium here, but I really think that both USC and A&M are not getting their due. I think A&M being a game away from Atlanta last year feels like everyone forgot about that. Also, the fact that they, like we just talked about, flipped quarterbacks like midway, like not even midway, like late in the year, and they still got to that spot. Le'Veon Moss was like a 6 yards of carry back, and nobody seems to remember that when he got hurt. So I think A&M is going to be a team that's sneaky in the playoff conversation. And USC, everyone's been banging down the door saying, can they have a defense? If Lincoln Riley just got a defense, they might, be a playoff team. They might win the conference, whatever. And like last year, had a defense, didn't have the quarterback, which is very cruel the way that the chips fell. But I'm not banking on USC to not have a quarterback that's a Lincoln Riley caliber quarterback 2 years in a row. So both those schools I feel like aren't getting enough buzz on the side of being in that discussion to be in the playoff.
Okay, that fuels this question that I've been wondering about, and I've asked it several times on this
I love
show.
it.
When the dust is settled, who will ultimately win the Lincoln Riley Oklahoma breakup?
Ooh, that is so tough. Who will win the Lincoln Riley Oklahoma breakup? See, I don't want to say they both win. I don't want to say it's
You
like
can't both win.
they were
Can't
both
both
better
win.
off. Yeah, I don't want to say that. I I think, gosh, this is so tricky. I'm going to say Oklahoma for the sake of this conversation because I think if Lincoln Riley stayed at Oklahoma, it wouldn't have worked. Like there is no world I think where you fast forward the tape 5 years from where he left Oklahoma and say, you know what, they were still in a good spot. And I think a lot of that is just the fit, and fit's an overused word in like head coaching, stuff for college football. Because I think if you win, you're a fit, but like legitimately, you think Oklahoma, you think like blue collar, hard hat, lunch pail, tough, all those things. And like Lincoln Riley will, I think, eventually win a lot of football games at USC because of the defensive staff he hired, but that wasn't like his MO or his calling card. And so I think Oklahoma, even if it's not Brent Venables for them for the next 10 years, I think making that pivot set themselves up for being more successful in the future. So just purely by like the multiverse, the way that would have worked, I'll say Oklahoma actually wins that breakup, even though I think USC is going to have success with Lincoln Riley in short order.
That's a good answer too, because I think there are a lot of people that would look at the Oklahoma side and go, "Wait a minute, you might only be a 9-3 ceiling type team moving forward without Lincoln Riley, and you were 11-1." Context is entirely different, and we don't know what the Lincoln Riley version of Oklahoma would have looked like in the SEC. Obviously, he wasn't necessarily on board with that, but it's a question that I feel like I revisit once a month at this point. I mean, it's gotten to that point, so it's one of
Like
those fun questions.
there's real venom there too, which is crazy. Like I put
Oh
out
yeah.
like a year ago, I want to say I tweeted out like I forget what the segment was, but I think it was in the vein of uh most bizarre or like college football beef essentially. Like kind of some conversation for the off season, fan bases that have beef but don't play each other, and like Oklahoma USC is on that Mount Rushmore. And I tweeted out a clip from it, and I had like Oklahoma and USC fans both of my mentions saying like, no, there's no beef, like there's no beef. But then the next breath was, but actually we got the better end of this. Here's why, and it kind of became a beef in like the mentions. I'm like, y'all just don't like each other. That's okay. That's great. Let's have you both be good, make the playoff, or better yet, let's schedule a game here in the future, and we'll be able to have like some real juice behind this.
The Big Ten SEC Challenge with USC and Oklahoma as annual opponents. I mean, that's what we need. Come on, like
Chef's
just sitting
kiss.
right there. Yeah. All right, let's close with some fill in the blank for you. Just a scenario, and you can fill in with one word, as many words as you want, go in whatever direction you want with it. All right, let's
Great, I
do
love it.
okay. A full season of Lenore Sellers taking the next step would be what?
South Carolina in the college football playoff. South Carolina, the team you absolutely would not want to see um, in the college football playoff. Like when he's on, and I don't know if you feel the same way. I don't know if it's like just the fact that we haven't had football in a while, but I felt this way at the end of the Clemson game a year ago. When he tucks it and runs, when he is, with the Nintendo star power, and he's got the dun, 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 like when he's in that mode, he's not Cam Newton, he's not Johnny Manziel, but I feel the same way watching him play the sport. Like I genuinely think he's that special when he's in the zone. So him taking the next step would I think imply he's in the zone semi-frequently, and that is terrifying if I have to play that in the round one or round two, whatever round of the college football playoff.
I was going to go with breathtaking, but I like that too. Yeah.
That's way more efficient. Yeah, breathtaking is a good one.
The team with legitimate playoff buzz that we should be talking about more is who?
I'll say Texas A&M for what I just said before. And Texas A&M's kind of polarizing, excuse me, polarizing too. If you
Pulverizing too. They could
if
be
you don't
this year.
show up in the run, yeah, dude. I mean,
True.
both things. Texas 8-4, the Yell leaders. It's a cult. It's this. It's that. And I feel like I have a lot of just saying at the end of every sentiment with A&M. It's like, well, yeah, but they were a game away last year. Just saying. Well, yeah, but they got a coordinator who's now calling plays for his own skill set at quarterback. Like, just saying. So the just saying with A&M, I wouldn't be shocked if they found their way in here at the end of this whole regular season.
Kind of look at the schedule too, and the way that it breaks down. There's not as many hurdles as one would think
Hmm.
for A&M. If they're going to be the team that can play, ball control football, and it's an Elko coach defense, it actually looks like an Elko coach defense. All of a sudden, you're looking up and going, "Wait a minute, what? That's a top 10 rushing attack in all of college football." And I don't necessarily see them having the same shortcomings that they've had in
Yeah,
years past. I agree with that take. All right, Dan Lanning will win a national title by the year what?
2028. They've stockpiled too much talent. Hanging on to the coordinator is going to be the hardest part about it, but based on how he hired post Kenny Dillingham, I have confidence. I just think you do the right thing enough for an elongated period of time. I think Oregon wins one by 2028. I really do.
Isn't that amazing that he got Kenny Dillingham and Will Stein to have two offenses that good for a defensive minded head coach we need to be talking about it more. It's probably the most impressive
Crazy.
thing he's done so far.
And to have the quarterback right, the way they've had it right. Like Bo Nix, when he got to Oregon, was not like the guy. Like I remember I listened to some old pods from just different people in the space to try and like just hear what we were talking about at different points in time, and also hear how they like format their shows, whatever. And there were people talking about Bo Nix transferring from Auburn to Oregon, and like after that first game, it's like, yeah, this is kind of what he is, man. This is the Bo Nix experience, and then he's a first round pick and a Heisman finalist.
I remember being there for that game against Georgia going, guys, this ain't changing overnight. This is going to be really rough if we think Bo Nix is going to snap his fingers and become a stud. And don't you know it? I mean, yeah, eating crow on that one. All right, last one for you. Lane Kiffin having a post-hype playoff run with this team would be what?
Would be just like college football in 2025. It wouldn't
I
it?
like
I
that.
mean, like last year was supposed to be the year, and then they get a 15-year-old who's a college graduate and Austin Simmons playing quarterback, and we're like, oh, well, I guess Kiffin doing Kiffin things. I do think too, going back and watching that drive against Georgia that he had, just the sheer trust from Kiffin to be like, we're down 7. It's a gross rainy game. They got NFL dudes all over that side of the football. 3 first-round picks. Austin, how about you go freaking sling it, dude? Like they called I think 5 passes on that drive alone. The belief from Kiffin in Simmons from that moment, to me, I was like, okay, he thinks at least that he's got a guy. You got a guy, you got a chance. So it would be very like just like college football in 25, where we're all like, it's South Carolina. I'm over here ringing the bell for LSU. It's A&M. It's Ole Miss. It's Ole Miss.
Yeah, that would be incredible. That really would be. Not going to sit here and predict it, but the more I kind of looked at it, and it's still a favorable schedule, still a really favorable schedule. I kind of looked at it and went, wait a minute. Should I have looked a little bit closer at Ole Miss as a playoff team this year? Maybe. Maybe we'll get
And
there
who
by
was
the end
talking
of the year.
about? I didn't mean to cut you off there. I apologize. I was just going to say, with how they use the portal, like who don't we know about that they have that's going to end up being their next Trey Harris? I'm not saying that everyone's Trey Harris, but like I didn't know who that was at that. I didn't know he was like that. I knew he was good coming over, but I know he was like that good when he got to Ole Miss and popped. Like
Harrison Wallace, the Penn State transfer.
had
Harrison
no
Wallace the
idea.
third. Yeah,
Had no
he's
idea.
a guy that could step in, and we're like, wait a minute, this is the guy that wasn't getting looks in the playoff, and they couldn't get him any looks whatsoever. And then he goes to Ole Miss, and all of a sudden he's going to become a guy or something like that. Playing with Caden Lee, who Caden Lee is one of the most underrated receivers in the SEC as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Austin Simmons is going to have a really nice connection with him, but that would be very college football. Not quite feels like 98 Tennessee type vibes post Peyton Manning,
Mm-hmm.
but there would be some of those conversations of, wait a minute, this is going to be the Ole Miss team that would get there. I just wouldn't rule it out at this point.
No, I would 100% agree. I would 100% agree. I think we're in for like the most. I don't want to say. I think everyone always this time of year says, "Oh, it's going to be 2007 again," and I don't know that it'll be like that much parity. But I think with the playoff and the uncertainty, like it is truly the most open it's ever felt in the year 2025. And I was saying the exact opposite this time last year. I was saying it's going to be chalky. You give Georgia 2 mulligans, they'll probably win the whole thing. It would end up being Ohio State, but like the same premise I think applies to this on the inverse of it's anyone's game.
Maybe 2014 instead of 2007. That's the
I like
example we
that.
got to come up with a little bit more. Crazy
I
season
like
in
that.
itself that doesn't get talked about enough. Yeah.
Oh, it's a
Uh,
wild one.
People forget that. People definitely forget that. JD, really, really appreciate the time, man. We'll do it again real soon.
Always a pleasure, brother. Excited to see you here very, very soon.
Awesome, man.